Welcome to the new Ninja Turtles cartoon panel. My name is Pixel Dan. I'll be moderating today's panel, and as you can see, we've got a great lineup here, great guests. Why don't we go ahead and start right here on the end? Just introduce yourself all the way down the line here.
I'm Brandon Alman. I'm the story editor.
I'm Cyril Neely, the executive producer.
I'm Greg Sipes.
I'm Greg A whole bunch of Greg Sipes is up here.
Sipes style.
By the way, Greg Sipes wasn't actually on the list, so he totally crashed this one.
Yeah. That's how I roll.
I just wanted to make sure there was more people up here than in the audience.
Yeah.
Throw it out.
Oh yeah, I'm Maria Morone, I'm the design supervisor. I'm Felipe Smith, I'm a character designer.
Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. So I figure we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. We'll talk about what it's like making a new cartoon, and if we got some time at the end, we'll take some questions from the audience here. So, first things first, Ninja Turtles are back and it's awesome, right? Am I right? Yeah. So I guess the first question we gotta ask is, what is it like working on a property like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and kind of recreating it for a brand new generation? Anybody?
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, we a lot of us have experience having kind of resuscitated existing, licensed properties. Whether it was, a lot of us came from Transformers and Teen Titans, the original Teen Titans. We spent a lot of time at Warner Brothers, so we've been through our share of seeing things come and go in some form. And when the Turtles came up, the first thing that you don't do is go, oh my God, I'm so nervous. Like, how am I going to screw this up? And we all kind of had. There's a core group of guys, and they're mostly on our crew, and we have a really good idea of how to kind of just reverently kind of march forward and know to do the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, what usually happens, the biggest obstacle with not just Transformers or Teen Titans or any of these shows that have existed before is, interference from management or from network, and it's just navigating through that stuff becomes the hardest thing, really. I mean, it's like, we always know out of the gate, like the fans are always, when they start getting sneak peeks online and stuff, they always get upset.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's fine, and I don't blame them. Everyone's very protective, and then.
Get the same way too.
But it's but eventually, it's always happened. Like after stuff airs for a little bit, everyone just kind of warms up and really accepts it. So it's like we don't let it really faze us. But it's always rewarding, because we do it. We always move forward in a way where we know it's going to end up being rewarding.
Awesome.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, there are teams of animation guys out there that do make stuff and that kind of blow it sometimes, I feel like. And we're glad that we got to do Turtles.
Cyril locked himself in the bathroom for about 5 days when he first got the job. He was scared to start. He didn't.
I was actually taking a bath, and I was in London in a hotel, and I got a call that I got the job. So I stayed in the bathtub for about 5 days. It was snowing outside, and I was very pruny. It was weird.
But super clean.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, I was kind of like, it's weird. A big crane raisin.
Well, I can say that I think it's pretty safe to say you guys have done a pretty tremendous job of appealing to all fans of the Turtles. Like you guys are doing your own thing with the new show, but there's so much there that still is for longtime fans of the series, and you guys are doing a great job blending it all together. I mean, right? I mean, you guys agree? So, I mean, there's just so much history with the Turtles. So how do you guys kind of look at all that and decide what kind of makes the cut into your new version of the Turtles?
I mean, from the beginning, it's always been. I'll talk about it briefly, and I can pass it around. I don't want to talk the whole time. So there's a lot of great guys here. When I first started, and it was just myself, Aurelio was one of the first guys that came, actually. It was like, at one point, it was myself, Aurelio, and one other guy, Byron, that really shaped the universe. And then Riddell showed up, who was a background and, kind of an environment guy in terms of the drawing. But in the beginning, we were very set on what we wanted to, we were looking at. And it was always pretty much like the first 12 issues or so of the comic, the Mirage Volume 1 run. We all really loved the Return to New York run, and the New Line 1990 film was a huge one. And then outside of that, like we actually like the role-playing books. We like we really loved the toys. I think we were looking towards the toys for inspiration a lot, and the games. So there's a lot of nostalgia about the 80s, the OT series, and we look at that. To me, that is more of just, there's so much about that that's aesthetic. It's hard to kind of get into it and find canon, or to find like really rich, kind of deeper, built up kind of arcing stuff. So it's easy to kind of hit that one and serve it well, because it was bigger than life in its visual appeal. So I think that kind of was a bit of an inspiration as well. So we were, and then the other thing was, just our sensibilities. I know like everybody on this panel kind of agrees. Brandon's a longtime friend of mine. He's kind of the head writer on the show right now. We grew up as horror fanatics. Like we were at the local corner store buying Fangoria every month. Like, so for me to make a show like this, which is my first time doing CG, it was an opportunity to kind of think about animation and entertainment production more from a standpoint of film production and like monster design. It took a while to get everybody warmed up to. In the beginning, I think we were doing designs that were cleaner and more animation-like, and now we're getting real goony and mottled and hairy and strange, and it's pretty wild. It's a lot of fun. Like, and we approach everything as if it was kind of like low-budget 1984 live-action movie.
Oh, okay.
Straight to video sometimes. That's kind of how we approach every production. That's how the budget kind of evens out to television. So it's been a lot of fun, and that's kind of stuff we've always looked at. Along the way, there's been the beauty of us being able to do this at Nickelodeon is that we're getting so much front commitment in terms of how many we're going to get to make. So we've been really lucky about how we can kind of pace ourselves at releasing newer things. Stuff that people probably initially were upset that it didn't come out immediately, but we just knew we were able to have this long road, and we were able to pace ourselves, which makes for a better show. I think.
Absolutely. Build a nice story, and fantastic. So let's talk about some of those character designs. The new series not only is giving us classic characters that we love, but we've seen lots of new mutants and stuff like that in the show. And it'd be cool to just kind of hear how you guys, what the process is of coming up with some of these new characters.
Really, why don't you talk?
Okay. I don't know. It's kind of an organic process, right, between a lot of us. Like, I can't even figure out how we start, because it just kind of just happens.
But just because Sipes is here, honestly, like Sipes and I hang out all the time, and 4 years ago when I started this, it was myself and Sipes, really.
Right.
And I would be going into meetings being like, oh yeah, it's four brothers, and Sipes is Michelangelo. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And I would draw Sipes with little hearts. And then, so it was like, he was the first character design. Like that Mikey spirit is embodied by Sipes.
Booyakasha!
I remember when you were still Warner Brothers, and you were still
I know.
doing,
I was
development.
making Batman shorts, drawing turtles in my Batman office.
Yeah. And I was still working on Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
Yeah.
Just I'd sneak into his office, what are you doing now? I want to work on turtles.
And at the time, our design supervisor was actually going to be a guy named Derek Wyatt, who ended up leaving and took over. He headed up Ben 10, but we're all friends, So, and Aurelio was already going to come on. He wanted to be a director, and when Derek dropped out, Aurelio became our design supervisor.
But as far as the
Which I'm
design,
happy about.
yeah, so am I. It's freaking awesome. As far as the design process is concerned, it's just really organic. I'll pop in Brandon's office, and we're just gonna start talking about an episode, and it's like, oh, this character's doing this and that, and then people put their 2 cents in, I'll do it, something like Felipe or one of the board guys would say something, but most of the time Ciro has kind of an overall vision of what he wants. It's I can't talk about certain characters, but there's a couple where I wanted to. It's like, oh, I want to do this. This is one I want to do. So, actually, no, Karai was one of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, early on, you know, because it was just me. I handled Turtles
Yeah.
and April and Splinter, and by the time Aurelio had come on, he became kind of like Footwave. So like, Aurelio had done the Foot, he had done Bradford and Zebra, both versions of them, humans and mutants. He had done, he said Shredder, right? He did Foot Clan, he did Karai, and he just kind of started going off. And then I started kind of exploring some of the earlier major secondary guys, and he was taking some of the more goony tertiary characters. But along the way, like, you know, Reno now is kind of taking more of a design lead because I've gotten more busy now that I'm more dealing with post on a day-to-day schedule. Because now that we've got enough shows moving in the hopper, basically I finish an episode every 2 weeks, and it takes me a whole week of driving around and going to different facilities to finish these shows. So I don't have time where I sit at a desk to draw. I spend 8 hours a day either in meetings or going to like basically post facilities where I supervise sound and edits and things like that. And my drawing usually gets done at night after 6 or 7 p.m. And Aurelio's there drawing all day, and I check in with him. But you know, he's got a huge team of guys, and you know, Felipe Smith is one of the newest guys that we had designing. Felipe was originally a board artist, and we pushed him over to character design, which I think he really likes. Felipe
Yes.
has a great actual real manga called Pikachu that you can get. I think it's through Tokyo Pop, right?
Very soon.
Yeah, volumes
Vertical.
1 through
Yeah,
3
Vertical.
for $30, I believe.
Actually, I only have one set left, dude.
Oh man.
Enough of the shameless plugging.
Thanks.
Sorry.
But yeah, I guess I'll put my 2 cents in there. Yeah, I started out doing in the storyboard department, and then I asked Cyril about how to submit a portfolio for character designs, which is something I always
Yeah,
been
he's
really
like in my
interested
office going, drawing for me, going, how do I, you know, try out to be an artist on the show? I'm sitting there, I have his comics on my desk. I'm like, what?
So yeah, I mean, I think the coolest thing about this show is that theme-wise, it has everything from martial arts to sci-fi to horror to, you know, a story about brothers that are just hanging out and like know each other really well, and they fight. They also save each other's lives every once in a while. They've got a strong father figure, and design-wise, there's just, you can do absolutely anything with that. You've got cybernetics. You've got like weird mutated tentacly slimy stuff, and then you've got like, you know, anything in between. So in terms of designing, like whatever they hand me to do, I'm like always ecstatic about it. Like I can't thank them enough for letting me do this. And right now we're working on season 3, and there's a lot of characters that again they're not going to appear for a while. I don't even know when that's going to
I
air.
know,
But
like Felipe just turned in this thing that was so awful, it was insane. It's like a 25-foot tower of like limbs and meat, with a million teeth
and eyes and
it's awesome.
crazy tongues.
It's gonna be so weird.
Yeah, like
It's also a
Sounds
CG
awesome.
nightmare that
It is
I guess
awesome.
they're willing to try and like work it out, because initially not getting into too much of that design, but yeah, anyway.
It's hard, like, you know, like sometimes like something will come down the road and I'll look at it in a script, or I'll have like the way we do stories really like the characters come out of stories, and Brandon and I just have lunch every day and organically find that, and so I'll either do a doodle at lunch on my placemat, right, because we eat lunch the same place every day, and then that sometimes will, you know, trigger him to write something specific, or I'll take that and hand it to Aurelio, and then Aurelio really fleshes that out. Or sometimes we kind of fight about who's going to actually do the cool drawings. And sometimes I'll just do cool drawings that never even see the light of day, just to have a version for my own set, even though Aurelio's like, I'm just going to say, I mean, you guys came out here, so I'll say something that you won't hear at any of the other cons or hasn't been online, but like this weekend I think I got to draw a Triceraton.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then that was the Friday argument. Like, am I going to draw it? Felipe wants to draw it. And I'm like, no, screw you guys, I'm drawing it.
I already knew I wasn't going to draw it.
And
so
then,
it's
and then
fine.
we were like, well, why don't we all draw it?
Yeah.
And see what happens.
See which one we all like. Because we'll probably mash all 3 together. Anyway.
Probably.
I was gonna say who won. Which one?
Well, usually Cyril wins, so.
I got like a busy weekend, so it's like whoever gets it done wins,
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm gonna submit my stick figure version.
That's probably what it's going to
He's got it on his green finger already.
Yes.
Oh, that's
I
it.
already have your stick figure Splinter drawing. Just resubmit that one.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about the voice talent a little bit. We got Greg up here. So why don't we go ahead and I'll throw some questions at you now. What's it like being Michelangelo, huh?
It's the coolest thing in the world. Pretty much. And yeah, we just have so much fun doing what we do.
Yeah.
It's one big family, and it just keeps getting more fun. You know, now that Brandon's writing on the show, it's just, you guys are in for a lot of good surprises. Yeah, it's really fun as an actor to have good scripts and have cool places to go. And Mikey's evolving. He's growing, right?
Yeah, we definitely took the liberty with Mikey to start him at a younger place so that we can kind of watch his transition over, like, you know, possibly 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah, the rest of the voice cast.
Yeah, they're all amazing. I mean, I love this voice cast so much. I mean, the thing about how we cast the show was kind of the way I always try to do it, which is I don't really necessarily know what I'm looking for before I find it. I just know that when I hear it, I'll know when I hear it. Right. And really what it boils down to is what it really has to be is someone who's not putting on a character.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone who embodies a certain, you know, vibe that pretty much is able to act unfettered, thinking about how they sound a certain way, and then they kind of actually plus the role. You know, and then there's a complicated thing, which the most complicated thing about casting this show was I would find guys that were great, and then once in their separate roles, and then when I put them together, it fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting 4 guys that sounded good together was very tricky. You know, I went through a lot of different Leonardos, and I went through a couple different Rafts because I would find guys that I really loved, and as soon as they would come together, they would just kind of conflict and stuff, and not lift up the whole group. So it was really tricky.
So was there any looking at any of the previous voice actors from any of the previous versions of the Ninja Turtles and kind of looking at those styles that they did there? Did that have any influence in the way you wanted the new Turtles to sound, or were you just kind of going for something new? And it's also interesting too, like we'll talk about Rob Paulson, because of course he was Raphael in the original series, and then you brought him on as Donatello in the new series, so.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, you know, the old shows are valid. I just, you know, if you listen, it's really crazy to listen to the OT series now. Like, I mean, I'm so used to the new one. They're like really so off the wall that they feel like a lot like odd creatures now. But also, I don't know, it's hard. Like, I would listen to it and I kind of disregarded it. I mean, you have to understand for myself, I was always a Mirage fan. And I was at the age where I was a kid when I bought that comic, so when the cartoon came out, I saw it as an abomination. You know, initially, you know, and then I kind of left it all. It's now, like, this show I actually am really grateful for because I was able to kind of revisit that stuff and reflect on it and understand, you know, for the first time kind of why it really is appealing and why it was great. But I see them as 2 separate things. So the voices were always in my head, and there were personalities. They weren't the voices from the OT cartoon.
Right.
You know, one of my favorite voices was Feldman doing Donatello.
Oh yeah.
You know, but that was so long ago that when I brought Corey in to read, I had Corey read for all 4 Turtles, and you know, no one was, you know, kind of into it because he just kind of came across as too much older now. I mean, so, you know, 20-some years have passed. He's an adult, but you know, we always tried to find a place to put him. So he ended up becoming Slash. As far as Rob goes, you know, it was one of those things where, like, I listened to all those guys, you know, Townsend and Cam, and I liked those voices, but there was something about Rob's voice that felt, I mean, what I was looking for, actually Brandon and I had developed this project for a while, and it was like kind of a Hardy Boys, you know, horror mystery gang kind of thing, and there was these 3 archetypes in there, and those 3 archetypes kind of became 3 of the 4 turtle archetypes when I started developing Ninja Turtles, because I literally came out of developing this show called Creepsville with Brandon for about 3 or 4 years, and it was at Disney and Cartoon Network, and it never happened, and those archetypes and those strong character traits kind of, like, you know, wove really easily into what we were doing with Ninja Turtles. And the one character that was kind of a Donatello type in that show that we had made, his name was Aloysius, and you know, he was kind of this uppity kind of nerd, and he had a little bit of a Woody Allen kind of neurotic thing, and you know, and I know Rob, and I asked him if he could do it, and he kind of just nailed it. And then, you know, then he would kind of do just the Raphael thing, but it just, in some weird way, not doing Raphael with a New York accent like the movies, and like leaving that open to have somebody like Sean do it, it kind of left a hole for Donatello that Rob could fit. It was really, you know, serendipitous actually.
Awesome. Very cool. So, I have to ask this while we're on the voice actors. Townsend Coleman's here right now.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if Greg has met him, and if you guys have talked to each other in Michelangelo voices, because I think that would be pretty awesome.
Where is he?
We're gonna have to find him for you.
I know, was
He
it?
had to leave.
Oh, he did have to leave early, didn't he? He was.
Oh
in
yeah,
play.
I met him at the last panel. He's very kind, very nice
You guys
guy.
talk?
Yeah, we talked, but we didn't talk as much.
I know there was like,
Are you talking your
when
voices?
we record the show, you know, there's a giant
Oh.
Turtles poster that everybody signs.
So,
So like all the turtles are there and everybody signs it regardless of, you know, whoever that comes in. If they're a turtle, you know, the turtles have, you know, signed their name right next to the turtles. And then I remember Townsend came in because we had the old T-Turtle show up, and Townsend just like tagged the Ninja Turtle, like just covered Mikey up completely with his
What a punk! And he wrote Cowabunga.
Sipes doesn't like that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But he was nice to me today.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably waiting for me to say something. He's like, "Did you see that I drew my signature over your turtle? So big." Yeah, I saw it. Now I didn't realize that's who it was. I'm so bad. Which turtle was he?
That's okay. So let's talk about this real quick. Cowabunga versus Booyakasha. How did this all come into place?
Well, you know, that was a big Nickelodeon thing. Like in the beginning, they would come to us and be like, "How do you feel about this?" And then they would say, you know, what about, like, let's make it new and improved. And, you know, that was one of the things that became one of those things. The beauty of that is that, you know, Brandon and I have always talked about what it would be like to see the origin of Cowabunga. So that's still, you know, in the works.
Oh,
Yeah. Because, I mean, I honestly, like, you know, I'm not really into prequels, but I like the idea of this series dovetailing into the other series, you know? Especially from an April point of view, like seeing her kind of grow up and become the April we know.
right. Cool. Well, I think that just ties right back into what we were saying at the beginning. Like, what you guys are doing is just this beautifully woven, you know, you're tying everything together from everything that we love about Turtles, and you're finding a way to make it all work. And I think that's really cool hearing that you're thinking that far ahead.
But yeah, and Sipes, in the beginning when it was just Sipes and I mean, he's a colorful dude, so like we would hang out and he would just be like, "How about, you know, Shell No?" And like, we would just, like he was like, before he was even cast, he was like figuring out turtle speak and stuff. And early on, actually, we had like, there was a lot of like, you know, strange, you know, we were trying to find Japanese words that could kind of work, that we would not try to sound Japanese, but almost like imagining, you know, these, it's not just kids that are speaking, they're not just turtle teenager mutants, but they've been raised with a Japanese father underground, and what have they learned from television and this and that, and like, and coming up with their own unique language. And that was one of the things that I really wanted to explore, and it never really happened, unfortunately, because of
A little bit.
but like, you know, there were some really weird words we could have come up with, and it just never happened because of the speed that we were working at and just the way writers work sometimes. But it's happening more now. I mean, they definitely are, their dialogue in season 2 definitely takes on a different level of comfort and casualness.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I mean, Brandon's amazing. He's worked on most of my shows. We went to college together.
But Booyakasha was that you, Sipes, or was that
Zero.
Zero?
No, that was Sipes.
Well,
It was kind of both of you, right? Like
Yeah,
you both.
Well, because we would say it to each other.
We actually said it. We actually said it on Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go back in the day. Like we had a Booyakasha line in there that kind of stuck, and that kind of crossed over. into
Yeah,
Turtles.
I think it was kind of like we were both saying it, and then we didn't know if the executives would freak out because of the Ali G thing. And so then I would be like, "Oh, Sipes wants to do that," and then he would blame me, and then it was like,
We blame each other.
and then he did it
You
in the
guys are still
booth,
blaming
right?
each other.
Like, because if I say it, it's one thing; it comes out lame. But if he's in a booth recording and he's high energy, I remember the day you did it, and there was like 12 executives sitting on a couch,
Yeah.
and they all went, And then they all start doing this. It says here it means death to the white man.
Which is what it means.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It means bring on the love. And love is the fiercest and sweetest thing there is. So, and that's what the turtles are.
The turtles just want to kill the white man, basically. Just live in a turtle world.
They definitely like to kill things.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we've got a little bit of time still. We got a good 15 minutes or so before we need to clear out of here. Do we want to do any questions? It looks like we got some questions out here. We're going to start right here.
Okay, so one of the things that I really enjoy about the show is that you have 4 turtles and they have their own distinct personalities, but they also don't fit a particular mold. Leonardo, he's all about doing forms correctly and using the Japanese terms and training all the time, but he's also obsessed with space heroes. And then Michelangelo, you know, he's the goon. He wants to play, he wants to go party, he wants to have pizza, soda, and listen to music. But he's also always reading his martial arts magazine. Raph, you know, he's the guy who has the temper, but he's always reading comics. And the thing that really trips me up is that Donatello, he's the nerd. He's always talking about science. You know, he's obsessed with April, but he also Raph is angry all the time. Donatello is kind of bipolar. He snaps. He snaps at people.
Yeah.
You know, so he's more like the angry one. And I was wondering if you guys, whenever you were building the characters, if you decided to have like this dualness of them, that where they didn't fit this mold, there was something about them that made them a little bit different.
Well, to me, I've always been fascinated with the trifecta of McCoy, Kirk, and Spock, and that the way those personalities really benefit and play off of each other, and a lot of that is really what we have, you know, especially Spock and McCoy, is kind of the duality of Donnie. And what happened was, and this goes back to, again, the show that we were making, Brandon, that character that was the smart character, the idea was that he was so intelligent and was ahead of everybody so many steps that you would cut that with the idea that he would become frustrated with everyone else's shortcomings. So he kind of, in a weird way, he's too intelligent for his own good and ends up becoming kind of, you know, that's his biggest weakness. And then we felt that that would kind of give him a little bit of a humanity, you know. He wasn't so perfect and cold. Because you see that a little bit in Spock. I mean, Spock's amazing because he's all logic, and then every once in a while, you know, the human DNA shows up, and you see that there's some strange warmth in him, and you get confused by that. So it's a little bit of that. And then I think the biggest way we did that was with April. I mean, it's like you take the guy that should be the coldest, and then you make him, like, you know, literally all that science that he understands, all that book smarts that he has doesn't do anything up against, you know, cute redheads. So
Every time.
yeah.
All right, Raphael back here. We'll go to you.
You guys talk about that when you was going to introduce Casey Jones?
Casey Jones. Yeah, he's coming up.
He's coming up
next
very
season,
soon.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was thinking about that. Donnie's going to be, in trouble there.
Oh yeah, like we're gonna have a little bit of jealousy with Donatello when Casey Jones shows up.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some competition right there. So I know you guys are all big fans of the you know, Donnie-April relationship, and Casey's definitely going to mess that up a bit. You know, and being human, it's a little bit easier for April to relate on that level. But yeah, I mean, it's also, I think it's good, you know, tension for the show. Like, you want that. Like, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Go right here.
we love Casey Jones.
I wanted to know if you guys were consciously treating the Turtles as a second generation Japanese American family, like all the way from the beginning, like the development.
Oh, definitely. Without a doubt. I wish there was more of that, actually. We actually, you know, in the beginning, the plan was that Shredder was actually going to speak in Japanese and it was going to be subtitled. And the network freaked out.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't even let us do stuff like, I know in the first or second episode, it was the second episode, the two-parter, when we go to his lair, it says Tokyo as subtitle, just so you know where you are. And they were trying to make me take that out because they were convinced that children couldn't read the word Tokyo or understand what that meant. So, I mean, it's a nightmare. Anyway, but in season 2, we actually are starting to do that more. Like, we actually do have subtitled moments. Like, it gets like, because, you know, Felipe could talk about this actually in Japanese if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But, like, they can say something in the room, but then when it gets real, and you have two characters step out and then they start talking smack to each other in Japanese, it takes on a whole different
Right.
thing. It's crazy. And Felipe has actually been a bit of a reference for that. We have a lot of Japanese speaking and Japanese people on the actual show.
Right. You guys aren't talking about characters that appear in season 2, obviously, right?
We are talking about that.
Okay.
No, well, we're not.
We're not. Okay,
We can
names
talk
won't be
about them.
mentioned.
Yeah, we can talk
No,
about
it's
them.
all right. We don't have to. Well, there's a character that's part of somebody's past who speaks Japanese, and then that scene they have subtitles when they meet for the first time. They speak in Japanese, and then we needed placer dialogue for the animatics.
Yeah.
So they called me in, and then Ria, who's a storyboard artist on the show, who's from Fukuoka, wrote a line for him to say, and then it was an old saying in Japanese, which is basically about being trapped and not giving up and fighting back. And they asked me to read it, and I looked it over, and then it needs a certain inflection and intonation to get the point across. And I think I read that line like 15 times with Ria, and she was there, and she's like, no, again. Eventually, yeah, it came out right. I don't even remember what it was. It was
It was actually Tiger Claw. We released him at the last
Oh, you did?
Comic-Con.
Oh,
It's like
alright.
a giant tiger man thing. He looks like a Masked Rider villain.
I think it was like Kyuso Neko
Yeah, but do it.
something. I don't remember the whole. Do you know the saying? Like the rat that bites, the mouse that bites the cat. Kyuso Neko Kamuto wa. How does it? In Japanese, yeah. Do you know the saying?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's same as mouse fighting.
Right. What is it in Japanese? Just 日本語で言ってください。Kyuso Neko to kamu. Okay. So yeah, it's just the attacked rat that bites back, but then he's telling Tiger Claw, like Tiger Claw tells Splinter, let's see if that, oh yeah, that's what he said. He says, let's see if the saying is correct about a rat being trapped and being able to fight back.
Yeah.
And then like Rhea actually made it sound like a really smart kind of deep line in
Yeah.
Japanese. She added her part to the end of it, and like I totally butchered that. Like, eventually we got a good one in, and then you know.
It's just cool though, because I mean we're all there and we're all really close, and like Brandon's our writer, but then it's like, oh shoot, we need this in Japanese. Let's go get Rie, who's amazing. She's one of our best story artists, and then she's gotta grab Felipe because he can do the real like. He does that like that gangster. He can do. So yeah, there's a lot of that Japanese American stuff that came like it's. In the beginning, like I really wanted to speak I wanted a lot of Japanese words to come across, and it just didn't work. But I really appreciate the architecture and little like furniture things and stuff from Japanese culture and antiques and stuff like that. So we try to bring a lot of credibility into that and realistic stuff. Like we do different drawings, and we've done ranma and stuff like that up on the walls. It's all very academic. Like we've studied that stuff.
Everything's
put it in
research,
there.
man. Like nothing on this show is just thrown out there. Like I'm totally stoked to be on this show. Like I come from a comic book background, and this is my first time working in animation. I've done my own stories, I've done my own characters, all dialogue, everything from from beginning to end. And it's my first time working with a giant crew of we got 100 people now on the show? Or 90 or 100?
90 something.
Yeah.
Used to be over 100.
I got 99 problems.
So from 2005 to last year, 2012, the only person I had to deal with was me and an editor, and that was it. So then working on a show where all of a sudden, I'm being asked to do stuff, I don't decide what I'm doing, I don't decide the way things look, it's not up to me. It was kind of like, oh no, how's this gonna be? Am I gonna be able to do this? And I couldn't be this happier. This team is ridiculous, dude. People know what they're talking about, they know what they're doing, they take it in the right direction, and then we constantly amp ourselves up. This first season was cool, but you guys have no idea what season 2 is like. Everything, story, pacing, character development, character design, even at the end of the show, all right, 3D, well, these are all things, the reason I'm this excited is all these guys have worked in animation forever, and I haven't. This is my first year. I've been here a year and a couple months. But I'm seeing how all these pieces fall together. Because I did the real ghetto, easy version of doing everything on paper by yourself, drawing everything, figuring out the dialogue by yourself, and then just going and like, if anything, you can just go to Kinko's and print it, and it's out, and people can consume it. This is like the super high version, you know, like high budget, specialized version of it with like 90 so people doing everything in every single part, the color, the texture, the design, the words, the, you know, layouts, action, backgrounds, everything has a specialist that does it. So I see how all these things fit together, and then you have the voices, and you have the script, and then I've been lucky enough that they've had people missing, so they called me in to do voices for the animatics. So like I've been getting like every single step of it and see how it works, and it's like my head's blowing up. I'm like, this is how you do it. So I'm really like, I'm like the biggest cheerleader for this show. It's ridiculous, and I work on it, but it's really good, and we're already on season 3, and like the back of my head is gonna hit the wall. I'm so excited. Like it's really good. It's a good show. I'm glad I'm on it.
And I was saying, Felipe, you're like he's in a pretty heavy room. It's like he's got like the whole like ex-Batman crew and stuff in there from back in the 90s.
Art Lee, Jeff
I mean, it's
Wong,
intense.
Yeah.
Pop King.
It's
Dude, that's crazy, man.
It's some all-star team.
It's all downhill. Like right now, I'm sharing with there's a special like killer group of designers.
The Black Ops room.
The Black Ops room for season 3, for not only the animation but also the toys, which is ridiculous because like we're drawing stuff that might actually be made into toys that people could play with and look at. And yeah, I sit there, and then there's these guys that they were on Batman, on the new Batman, but they also worked on
just
the
came off of the
yeah.
Glenn Wong was the original one of the. He was the guy who sculpted the kits for the Batman animated? And then
Yeah,
Yeah.
Glenn Wong actually
And Batman
started. Glenn Wong got into Batman animated because he worked for Kenner sculpting the action figures,
Right,
and he would be at all the Kenner toy meetings. And then they said, "Hey, would you ever want to work in animation?" So he left Kenner making the actual figures, that first animated line,
Right.
and started doing the new character designs, and those
Yeah.
became the new adventures of Batman and Robin. That was like the Wong era,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, with Glenn Murakami.
Yep.
By the way, so you guys, I just want to say this. I've never said it publicly. There's that Murakami character in our show. That's not from Murakami Wolf. That's Glenn Murakami, which
Yeah.
was our old boss at Warner Brothers.
It's true.
Yes.
That's
Yeah, we literally
Sensei.
exactly drew him, and but we didn't do his voice because we wanted to split it a little bit. Because his voice is different. His voice is
He
like,
kinda sounds like, you're doing it wrong.
But we thought it'd be cool if he was like Zatuichi, the blind ramen chef.
Yeah.
And just because we knew it would really upset him.
Yeah.
That's like,
But your dad's in the show.
my dad's in the show, yeah.
Y'all know whose dad is?
Antonio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in a pizza shop, so that's the pizza shop I grew up in, and I'm the pizza delivery boy.
Riding the moped.
Awesome. We got a few more time for a few more questions. I'll go right back here.
I think one of the favorite characters for us fans and from the new series is the Krang. So I just want to know how you guys developed, because it used to be in the 86 cartoons there's only one Krang, and I think in the 2000 series there's several. And how do you develop the character until it is now, and how do you develop the Krang speak?
I'm gonna do this one really quick. It's just it all started. We had this thing where I really love John Carpenter. So in the beginning, my actual initial pitch was completely centered around the Krang, and it was the idea that if you have these turtles that are hiding amongst humans, that when we meet up with them, they realize that also hiding amongst humans is something not quite right, that they don't quite understand. So you gotta imagine a character like Michelangelo kind of just sitting and people watching, going like, I wish I could be out amongst them, right? And they go, and every once in a while he goes, that guy's not quite right. I don't know what it is because I don't really even know humans, but that guy's not quite right. And we were talking a lot about just, things like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Invaders from Mars, It Came from Outer Space, all those great old movies, and even more recently things like They Live, which is a fantastic movie I love, and even the look of it. That kind of changed a little bit because they brought on writers, and the writers kind of decided that they just wanted to kind of get that all out right away. But my intention was that we would have a whole season where you wouldn't quite realize the Krang mystery, and we would reveal the Krang at the end of season 1, actually being underneath people's faces like it was V or something. We peel away the rubber skin and you hear these terrifying things, right? But and I get why we did it that way, and it kind of worked. And it works differently, but it worked. But the biggest inspiration was John Carpenter, and it was three things. I think it was we wanted things to move and be erratic and terrifying the way they were in The Thing, and we loved They Live for the reason I just talked about. And then the third thing was actually was Halloween would come up constantly in the beginning as to how people would walk around. We really referenced Michael Myers a lot. So like all of a sudden we're like halfway through season 1 and we're like, if I keep talking about John Carpenter, I'm gonna freak out. Like we were like every meeting was John Carpenter, and I was like, it was kind of awesome. And then yeah, I mean, but the look of it was, there's a lot of toys and stuff that we liked that came into it. A lot of it was the alien faces from They Live. We really loved the Krang inside the weird jumpsuit drone body. We tried to keep some of that. But we always knew we liked the idea of it being a hive mentality, basically so we could kill them like constantly. We wanted to just be able to. We started to finally. I think that, and the big whole thing, really, what it came down to is I really wanted that walker suit because in animation you can't hit people in the face. And in the beginning I completely tricked them. We had this whole thing where it was like, well, technically the face is in the stomach, so we won't hit anybody in the stomach, but we'll just deck everyone in the face for the rest of the series. And they were like, okay. And that was like such an animation taboo up to that point, and we totally got around it. And now we're punching them in the stomach anyway. Because that's a given. So.
So Kevin Eastman relaunched the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book a couple of years ago, and early on in season 1, there's sometimes it kind of felt like while I was reading the comic, there's some things that kind of felt synced up with the cartoon. And I was wondering if you guys communicate with them. There's similarities, like with Karai and hesitation of Bebop and Rocksteady being debuted and all that. I was wondering if you guys kind of work together as far as...
Well, we're friends with Kevin. I mean, Kevin stops by, Kevin hangs out, but it's more of like an inspiration, and like a mentor. But, and I read the comic for a little bit, but we were so far ahead of it that none of it really, no matter what I would read, it wouldn't get into our show. I'm not sure what Tom Waltz was doing, if he was getting inspired by the show. I know that he was a big fan of the show, so that might have been it. But I think a lot of it is because I'm a huge Kevin fan, I think, and it maybe tonally just staying on the Kevin vibe, and Kevin being such a big part of that a lot of the same stuff kind of happens, I think. That's the only thing I can imagine. But I've been behind on that book. I haven't read it since the last one I read was maybe issue 14 or something. And I'm kind of worried, like sometimes I don't, when I make stuff, I kind of like to kind of isolate myself from everything else so that, it messes me up, it messes up my flow. Because you either try to be too different or, it's hard.
Generally, though, we don't communicate with those guys. We just kind of do our own thing, and then we just sort of push it forward and hopefully inspire those guys a bit. But yeah, we're so totally on different pages.
Kevin wants to be Ice Cream Kitty. He told me to tell Cyril that he really wants to be Ice Cream Kitty.
You guys know
He told me
about
that
Ice Cream
yesterday.
Kitty?
Yeah.
You guys know Ice Cream Kitty? All right. Just
You guys
check.
should ask, Brandon, we've been talking a lot. I mean, I know we're going a little over, but Brandon, you should talk a little bit in general about where we're going, maybe in season 2, or if anybody has questions about me where we're headed, direct them towards Brandon, because Brandon doesn't come to these things too often. It's kind of an opportunity to talk to him. He's kind of amazing in terms of just, he's done so much with the show for the last 2 seasons, since he came on season 2 from the beginning.
This is kind of season 2-ish and whatnot. So I noticed with some of the stuff the turtles have in their home, some of the stuff is built up through scrap, their television, whatnot. And on the other hand, at other times you see things like a Famicom, sitting there. And I think to myself, that must be left over from Splinter's human life, after Japan, but before the sewers. And I'm thinking, when is that going to get explored, if at all, that point?
Well, what's the question exactly? Just
Splinter's human life after Japan,
right.
but before he turned into a rat. I just see stuff left over from that.
A lot of that stuff is the idea that they scavenged it,
It's mostly found stuff.
Yeah, one of the greatest things, and really quick, when we started the show, we were drawing all this rad stuff, and the network came and said, hey, look, we don't want to do, what do you guys draw on? We don't want this to be like a retro show. Why is everything from the 80s? Which to me, the 80s is such a huge part of the Turtles, right? And I would say, no, you're getting it wrong, right? It took 20 years for this stuff to fall into the sewers. It is 2014 or whatever we're at, they just, they're a little behind. You know, when Donnie makes, I mean, in season 2, Donnie carries a Game Boy the whole season. Like like he has like the original Game Boy, and I didn't. Not literally the original Game Boy because I'll get in trouble, but you know what I mean.
Our own version.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, he's taking a spot track over, so it's a lot of it's found stuff. But yeah, I mean, Hamato Yoshi's to me the heart of the show. We love him so much. I'm super into exploring him more.
And you'll find out more about his human life. You'll find out more about his relationship with Shredder and all those things as we continue on. Like that's key. We want to kind of release. We don't want to release too much, but we want to kind of because we're spreading this out over seasons. So every season we want to have major revelations about who they were, what their characters were like, what happened, how they became friends, and how they even more so than we've revealed in season 1. Like we want to delve into that a little bit more because that's just a lot of good character meat right there. That's what you want.
Awesome. All right, we're gonna do one more question. We'll do back here in the back.
I just wanted to say I'm so impressed with the script and how you guys write for Master Splinter and how strong his morals are in every single episode. And I was curious as to how you come about those morals for each episode for Master Splinter. I honestly feel like you guys are raising children better than most parents. those episodes are so powerful.
You're raising children better than most parents.
Yeah, I mean, it all kind of comes out organically. Like, it's more about what is the story about, and he's definitely the moral center, but he's also, he has a strong hand. He's not, he's of a different kind of era, and he was also raised in a much more strict environment. So, at times I think, man, what are parents going to think? Like, is he too tough? But we always sort of push forward because that's just who he is. Like some of the older incarnations of Splinter feel a little bit soft at times, and he's just sort of like a Yoda-like character. But then it was to Ciro's credit that he came up with like a more dynamic, younger, more interesting version of Splinter initially when those guys were, and this is also something that I don't know. I guess we could probably release. It's not a major thing, but even the movie guys when they came to check out what we're doing, were super impressed by Splinter. We're like, and the director was like, oh, we should take this version, this design version for the movie. So for the live action, I was just like, whoa, what are you doing? And it was exciting, but at the same time, it's like, wow.
Oh yeah, I want this, Jack, that.
Yeah, just take that, and then we're like, well, can we go over there and see what you guys are doing? We're like, no. It's not
You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they just ask me, what would I do? And then they just write Splinter based on it.
Yeah.
WWGCD.
Awesome. All right. You got some more?
No, I just, we love Splinter. I mean, Splinter's cool.
Yep.
The big thing, everyone was like, oh, why is he so tall? And part of that was to, you gotta understand, like I worked at Marvel for a while, right? And Marvel would always be like, oh, make the arms bigger. And after a while, like you have Hawkeye, like can't even move. And he's supposed to use an arrow, like a bow, and get it to his quiver.
Which one's
So I would be like, are you sure you don't want the chest smaller, right? And I just start to mess with them that way. So it was kind of the same thing with the turtles. It's like, well, how do you maintain that they're teenagers, right? But not make them like frail and dopey and skinny, but also we had to find a balance for the turtles to be muscular, but also still look like teens and look like kids. And the best way for us to do that quick silhouette read, was to have basically this guy that shows up and automatically you get that he's the father figure because he towers over them. Okay. So you can have them out and about, and you don't actually even think, hey, they're kids, until they go home, and that's where Splinter is, and then you go, oh man, Dad's pissed at them. So it really fixed that. Made it very convenient.
Master Zero. Right?
Yeah.
It's a round of applause. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to come out here. You guys are doing a great job.
Thanks. We love you guys for watching.
Guys.
The support's awesome.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much.
We're doing a signing downstairs if you guys have any more questions.
Yeah.
So.
That's right.